once a week we go out to the left coast and we inquire as to what the new movies are from Michael Snyder on his Culture Blast. Hello, Michael.
Well, hello, Alex, and greetings from Hollywood, or at least the LA Metroplex, where movies are made and dreams die, or something. We've got some sequels, we've got a couple of documentaries, we've got a big overblown wannabe French franchise tentpole blockbuster. Shall we get to it?
Yes, you should.
Now You See Me was an actual the entertainment that I enjoyed when it came out in 2013, basically about a quartet of vigilante stage magicians known as the Four Horsemen. And as in that first movie, Now You See Me Too brings them back together. And these guys are known for their amazing and mammoth illusions, even as they take on vile villains who are trying to bring down the world. It's like they're the Fantastic Four, only like Mandrake the Magician or something. Anyway, in this case, they take on an evil corporate enemy with a grudge against them, a young high-tech genius not played by Jesse Eisenberg, although imagine a more overtly evil Mark Zuckerberg, played by Harry Potter himself, Daniel Radcliffe. Anyway, Eisenberg is already in the cast and was in the first film. This globe-trotting movie, returning as one of the horsemen, so do Woody Harrelson and Dave Franco. That's three of the Four Horsemen from the first film. And also a longtime magic debunker played by Morgan Freeman is back, as is Mark Ruffalo, still an FBI agent and a horseman ally, and at least one other significant cast member from the first film. But I am disappointed because they needed to replace the first film's female horsewoman, played by Isla Fisher, and they do so with the charming but ill-suited Lizzie Kaplan, who you may know from Masters of Sex on Showtime. There's little or no character development in this film, and there's no interrelated emotional investment here, just action set pieces and increasingly improbable tricks that, magic or not, don't seem as plausible as the ones in the first film. You know, it's that whole suspension of disbelief thing. The heist aspects in this movie are nice, but the situation and feats get increasingly absurd and kind of cobbled together. I mean, when you're dealing with magic in movies, you need suspension of disbelief, and it was in short supply for me while watching this. And the mysteries and reveals of the first film, the misdirections, all of that are not matched in this sequel, which also has a bunch of secret society mumbo-jumbo and tangled family tree pruning. There are convolutions for their own sake, ones that just muddle rather than delight, and that add little or no excitement. Directed by John Chu, written by Ed Solomon. I kind of wanted more out of this thing, and I didn't get it. So we'll give this a meh, a hearty meh. Well, on the other hand, we have The Conjuring 2. Director James Wan knows how to make a truly frightening horror movie that doesn't feel like the same old jack-in-the-box scare fest, even if he does use that jump out at you and make you scream trick very effectively when he wants to. This is the guy who directed the original Saw movie, as well as Insidious, and most relevant to this review, The Conjuring. And for the record, he also directed the wildly successful Furious 7 in the Fast and Furious franchise, and is going to helm Aquaman for DC and Warner's. The guy's hot, and it's definitely worth checking out. The Conjuring 2 is another success for Wan, a fine sequel to the well-crafted, very creepy ghost story that starred Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson as Lorraine and Ed Warren, the real-life 70s-era Nick and Nora Charles of paranormal investigation. And if you don't get that reference, go rent The Thin Man and watch it. Anyway, it's great that Farmiga and Wilson are back for the sequel. She's an Oscar nominee, but also plays Norman Bates' mom in the Bates Motel TV show. Wilson does a lot of kind of Tony upscale films, but was also in Wan's two Insidious films, so they're real comfortable with horror and the supernatural, and they're the twin hearts of these Conjuring movies. The love between these really likable, competent characters is kind of palpable, and their spiritual side makes them kind of ideal foes against demons plaguing the innocent. And as in The Exorcist, That's what they're up against. They head to England to investigate a haunting in a working class London neighborhood and find a single mom, played by Frances O'Connor, and she's dealing with a media firestorm when her youngest daughter appears to be possessed by an evil spirit that terrorizes the mom and all four of her kids. Simon McBurney is a friendly British paranormal expert. Franca Potenta, a skeptical psychologist, and Maria Doyle Kennedy, who's Mrs. S on Orphan Black, is the nice neighbor lady across the street. The bottom line, Juan brings the dread and the frights, and the cast, including a young actress named Madison Wolfe, playing the possessed kid, they all deliver. And you'll be hopping out of your seat like the aforementioned Jack in the Box. I really like The Conjuring 2. And boy, oh boy, what a tonic compared to Warcraft, which is a 3D big budget attempt to monetize a very, very popular video game, the first video game in a long series of video games that maybe has culminated or continues with World of Warcraft. And this has a enormous mythos, and it's just clumsy and kind of heavy-handed, overblown, blustery blather laden with eye-numbing CGI action and part or wholly animated characters. The convoluted mythology, I mean, there's no emotional impact here, and you've got orcs versus humans and other worlds and other dimensions, and I was bored silly. I mean, this is what you got to expect when video games and their spin-offs are adapted into big screen, big budget feature films intended to be, as I said, tentpole franchises for the studio in question. I mean, you think they'd get the picture, pardon the expression. I mean, consider Lara Croft, Super Mario Brothers, Mortal Kombat, Final Fantasy, and even the relatively successful series of Resident Evil movies were crap in my book. And the sad part about this is directed by Duncan Jones, who some may know as David Bowie's son, who directed a fantastic film called Moon about a guy sort of stranded up on our nearest celestial neighbor. And I loved that film, and I loved Source Code, which he also directed. And I just felt like, I mean, he tried to rewrite the script by Charles Levitt, but despite all the talent and all the money on screen, this was tedious. Dominic Cooper, Ben Foster, Paula Patton, Clancy Brown, they're all involved. It doesn't really matter. Meh. Okay, let's get back to something somewhat worthwhile. Genius. A top-notch cast and a very interesting topic were enough to hold my attention through the occasional mundane moments of genius, which concerns the relationship between the famed book author Maxwell Perkins, who's the guy who discovered F. Scott Fitzgerald and Ernest Hemingway, and another of Perkins' discoveries, the brilliant, idiosyncratic, and troubled author Thomas Wolfe. They are played respectively by Colin Firth, who seemingly never removes his hat in the film, and Jude Law in grubby bohemian mode. It's based on a Perkins biography, and the script to Genius was written by John Logan, who is the man who created and writes most of the Showtime horror sci-fi series Penny Dreadful, and also wrote Gladiator, The Aviator, Hugo, and Skyfall. This is not his best work, but it is interesting to a guy like me who loves the authors involved, and it had much to offer me in the cool historical vein, the period trappings, and the acting by a cast that also includes Laura Linney as Louise Perkins, who is Max's wife, Guy Pearce as F. Scott Fitzgerald, and the great Dominic West as Ernest Hemingway. They're not in it a lot, but they add color. It's the first movie directed by the Tony-winning stage director Michael Grandage, which maybe explains why it kind of plods a bit in a stagey way. Still, I enjoyed elements of Genius. Speaking of genius, there might be a debate about this, but Brian De Palma is recognized as a maverick auteur of film and also a Hitchcock wannabe. And De Palma is a pretty interesting one-on-one documentary wherein the director Noah Baumbach interviews De Palma recently and discusses his career and also some of the films he's made in great depth. And this is a guy who directed Carrie, Dress to Kill, Blowout, Scarface, The Untouchables, Carlito's Way, and more recently Mission Impossible, and a few bombs as well. And this covers all the bases. I really enjoyed this. Jake Paltrow is also involved in this. He also, fellow director of Baumbach and De Palma, he's also involved in the conversation. And there are clips from the films and some archival stuff. I really enjoyed watching De Palma. Maybe more than I've enjoyed some of his films, but I definitely have enjoyed some of his films. So I recommend De Palma for cineasts and people who like the guy's movies. Finally, let's wrap it up with a documentary from the Oscar-winning director of 20 Feet from Stardom, a guy named Morgan Neville. And the Music of Strangers, Yo-Yo Ma and the Silk Road Ensemble, has none of the poignance, really, and kind of emotional investment we have in the pop music covered in 20 Feet from Stardom. And also, that movie dealt with, basically backup singers, and they were usually in the shadows, and he brought them out. This movie, instead, is basically about the international musical collective created by the world-class cellist Yo-Yo Ma, and it follows them around, very, very different people from different countries, and they go on tour. They're singers, they're composers, they're arrangers, storytellers, and they just travel from country to country, and this is all about these people kind of holding on to their traditional music and coming together to make something new. I enjoyed watching it, but it had none of the punch that we all enjoyed from 20 Feet from Stardom. Still, the guy's a good documentary filmmaker, and the music's lovely. So that's it in movie land. What do you got going on, buddy?
Actually, we're watching something you recommended, and in spite of the fact that you recommended it, it's very good.
Oh, yikes.
Missing.
Oh yeah, wonderful, wonderful stuff. Speaking of Frances O'Connor, right?
Yeah,
She's in The Conjuring too.
Yeah, it's on Stars. In case people are wondering, you can watch it not on Stars, as they run Stars live, but in their their on-demand service. And we're enjoying it. It's quite good. And then we're also, what else we love? We're really enjoying is America's Got Talent.
Yeah, you said this a little while ago.
Well, no, last time I told you it was Britain's Got Talent. But this is the American version, which incidentally is the original version of the show. He couldn't sell it in England, so he sold it in the United States first, and then he started doing it in England. And the British show we love because it has a lot of heart. It's really very loving, okay? And this show was not that way, not with Howard Stern, and it had a rough edge. Now, with Simon Cowell, believe it or not, that sweetness is in the American version, and we're just loving it. There are some incredible acts. It's the greatest variety show. It's the only variety show on television.
So you're saying that the Simon brings the warm and fuzzies?
Oddly enough, yes.
Wow. Well, it's almost worth looking at.
He brings the warm and fuzzies, but you don't see how he brings it. He owns the show. He runs the show. And because he's on it now in the United States, he has more hands-on with it, and you can tell because it's almost identical to the British version now in its tone and its sensitivity. So we really like that. And then, of course, we went to see Captain America. We didn't go to see Captain America because that isn't a Captain America film. Captain America is it should have been called The Avengers 3. And if that were the case, we would have never gone. It's a horrible picture. Just a horrible picture.
Well, I will disagree, but I enjoyed the first two of the Captain America films, and
yes, I did too. We did too. That's why we went. She loved both the Captain America films.
Well, let's be honest about it. The first Captain America film is Indiana Jones. The second one is 3 Days of the Condor. You can't go wrong with those influences when you have the measure of talent.
I don't see how the first one was Indiana Jones, but.
World War II, Nazis, supernatural,
Well, but that's the way Captain America started out anyway in the comics.
Well, I'm saying if you like Indiana Jones, you'd like that probably. And if you like 3 Days of the Condor, but you have to have liked these superhero gatherings to appreciate the third film.
I think the Gathering this time, the others I wasn't that excited about. I did not like them. But this one goes a step further and ruins each and every character they have. Just ruins them. And
I disagree.
And doesn't give enough time to Captain America. So you're being led into the theater under a fraudulent ruse that you're going to see a Captain America picture and you're actually watching an Avengers film.
Well, honestly, compared to Batman versus Superman, this thing was
yeah. Well, just because
Potemkin.
Batman versus Superman is maybe the shittiest movie ever made, from what I hear,
It's pretty big.
that doesn't mean that they can't make the same mistake themselves, or that this is slightly better because it's the same basic plot. You know.
I think you're suffering from superhero fatigue.
I'll tell you, Marvel only gets it right when they have these pictures that have nothing to do with the rest of that thread with Iron Man and all of that, like Deadpool, like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ant-Man.
Well, Ant-Man knows now part of this whole thing,
Well, yeah, except the first film was pretty charming, pretty well
It was
made.
charming, but I think of all the films they've made, I like Guardians of the Galaxy, and I love Deadpool. Just love it.
Hilarious stuff. Be advised, they will probably be bringing the Guardians in some capacity into their big tapestry.
I think they'd be wrong to do that. As wrong as Hillary's going to be to make Warren her vice presidential nominee.
Oh, wow. There you go. So you're saying they're going to diminish the Guardians and Hillary's going to diminish Elizabeth Warren.
Thank God they're all in what do you call it, the menopause, because otherwise their menstruation periods would be synchronizing, and then life would be hell here for 5 days a month.
Oh, really, really nice. I will tell you this, though. I think you're accurate on one level, because Donald Trump is definitely Thanos, or worse.
Yeah. But anyway,
all right.
Now that I made a terribly sexist joke, which I'm going to continue to make because I don't give a shit, that's it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you can catch up to me on Twitter at Culture Blaster. You can tune into the Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page at Facebook. By all means, do so. Like it. Click on our conversations, read stuff, and we'll be back soon, I hope.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. And as always, we'll see you next week. And as always, there's more GABNet coming right up.